What's up, everybody? In this video, we are going to review creating a logo for your brand. This video is part 2 for creating a logo. Before you start watching this video, you should have 3 logo concepts that align with your brand adjectives. During the review process for your logos, you should have identified elements that worked better than others. For Interweave, after reviewing the 3 concepts, we identified elements from 2 that we wanted to incorporate into our revisions. The script typeface was well received. It suggested a modern approach and was thought to be approachable. When we reviewed the serif typeface, we thought that the difference in stroke weights suggested a more detailed visual. For the next set of revisions, we explored trying to combine the elements that worked well from the 2 concepts. The result was a modern and approachable script typeface with a varied stroke to suggest detail. This gave us a look and feel that aligned well with all 3 brand adjectives. Last, we added a tagline to the logo to help clarify our service offering. Up until this point, you should have been working entirely in black and white. The reason being is that if your logo works in black and white, it should work well with any solid color. Your next step is to explore color palettes. Personally, I'm horrible at selecting color. There are a lot of color palette generators and theories regarding color selection. I've posted these to Blackboard. When we were looking at color palettes for Interweave, we researched color palettes for weddings as a starting point. From here, we tested the logo with various combinations. After selecting a color palette, your next step is to select a typeface that you will use for brand communications. When selecting this typeface, it should be something that will work well with large blocks of text and will work both with print and digital applications. Selecting either a serif or sans serif is best here. Selecting handwritten or display fonts will not work well. As you go through the process of developing your branded elements, it can be a lot of back and forth, tweaking elements to get them right. One way to check this is to arrange all your elements you have on a single page. Look at each of your selections for your logo, color palette, and typeface and compare them to the brand adjectives. You may have a couple options right now, and creating separate pages to compare can be helpful. Next is a good time to test your logo, color scheme, and typography. You can do this by creating some branded elements. The first type of applications are ones that make use of your color scheme and logo. Try applying the logo to items that are relevant to your brand to see how the colors are working and if the logo is legible. For example, before we started to develop our planning software for Interweave, we thought that a low-tech planning notebook would be a good reward to give backers. Branded elements are good to examine your color scheme and logo. However, I personally feel that I get a much better picture of the look and feel of a brand through elements that combine text, images, and your branded content. The first element I like to use is a mock-up of the company homepage. I feel that this is the best way to introduce yourself to your customers in a controlled environment. It also is an opportunity to add photography, copy, or icons to your design. The goal isn't to create an entire website, but to focus on the first impression you make and how you introduce yourself to your customers. That's why I focus on a desktop version that is above the fold, meaning only design what someone would see before they start to scroll or click. Next, I explore 1 or 2 relevant social media channels. I select the channel that makes the most sense for the brand and examine how you could start to build a following and community. There are many different social channels, and my thought is when you are starting as a company, only engage on select mediums. This will save you time and energy and allow you to focus on a targeted approach. For Interweave, we selected social media channels that were visual and enabled the creation of finding wedding inspiration. At the time, Pinterest was the most relevant. Once you have your basic elements together, one last branded element to possibly examine is the actual product or service you are creating. This doesn't have to be every single screen, but start to think about the customer journey with your product and design elements to help them solve their problem. For Interweave, we explored the creation of planning software and essentially making a work-back schedule for everyone. Each important date in your wedding would be organized in a timeline that would be a jumping-off point for planning, collaboration, and assigning a vendor. Once you have established a brand, the next challenge is to maintain it. This is especially true when your company grows and has multiple employees creating content for the brand. This is often done through the creation of a brand standards. This is a document that provides a reference for a designer, so they can understand the look, feel, positioning, and how to implement a brand's assets. What are some of the common elements of a brand standards manual? Logo usage. As you continue to develop your brand, there might be multiple use cases for your logo. This could be for print, web, or the application onto clothing. Logo variation. Sometimes you will have applications where a full color logo does not work. Specifying variations to your logo, like a single color application, and showing use cases are important. Fonts and typography. There should be a defined style for every bit of type used for a brand, for both print and digital applications. Rules for how to use the typography should be clear and distinct from what typefaces are acceptable, how each is used, and guidelines for additional styling, size, and use of color. Logo do's and don'ts. Showing improper usage of your logo is a must. I've worked with many designers that like to get creative with the usage of a logo. Referring back to the brand standards to show them why it is an improper use is always helpful. Clear space. Many non-designers underestimate the need for white space, including a spacing reference, especially for the logo. Rather than specifying inches or centimeters, use a portion of the logo, a letter or a shape to set the clearance. Color palette. Always include color palettes and what the colors should be used for, and include formats for both print and web, indicating RGB, hex, CMYK, and Pantone. Imagery. When building your brand, you often have established a particular tone to the photographs and images you select. In the brand standards, show imagery examples and explain why they are good choices. Bring it all together. Show a few examples of what the logo, photography, and text look like together in a single composition. These can often be the most useful examples when trying to explain how your branded content should look and feel. At the end of this video, you should understand how to take your 3 logo concepts and develop a final logo, color scheme, corporate typeface, and branded elements. I should note that this is just a way to get up and running with your brand. Over time, you will likely design additional elements.